China is perfecting a technology that's decades ahead of the rest of the world. They are developing fully autonomous flying taxis that require no runways, no pilots, and no landing strips. And these are not just prototypes to be used in the distant future. Rather, the Chinese autonomous taxis are already being mobilized in urban hubs across the nation. They have completed thousands of test flights and have been issued certifications proving their viability. With this technology, China is giving birth to a new economy that will fundamentally change how we travel. The flying miracle. EHang is one of the most prominent autonomous flying taxi companies in China. They have been leading the way when it comes to cutting-edge technology aimed at making autonomous flying taxis a viable transportation method. Their most promising model is the EH216S. Its design looks like a mix between a drone and a helicopter. Extending from the main body are 8 arms, with each arm having 2 propellers attached to it. Combined, these 16 propellers create enough thrust to carry 2 passengers at the same time. From the inside, the vehicle looks equally interesting. There are 2 seats for the passengers, a screen, and a lot of windows to allow for the perfect view. Aside from the looks, it is also extremely well designed for urban use. It runs on electricity, making it eco-friendly and efficient. On a single charge, it can travel up to 18.5 miles without any stops, traveling at speeds up to a maximum of 80 miles per hour. That makes it perfect for large cities where passengers may have to travel longer distances. Additionally, it is designed to take off vertically. This provides a huge advantage for urban use, where space is a valuable commodity. Vertical liftoff and landing requires less space as there is no need for a runway. Plus, it cuts down on the time required to become airborne. And once the EH216S is airborne, it is almost like magic how it flies. The passengers have to do virtually nothing. There are no dials or buttons to press. Everything is handled by the autonomous program. You just sit down and enjoy the view as the aircraft travels on the programmed route autonomously. And this is by design. The lack of a human pilot removes distractions from the flight. At the same time, it makes the flight much safer. Humans are capable of making mistakes or getting distracted, leading to accidents. Meanwhile, autonomous programs do not make such mistakes. But what if there is an emergency? Well, EHang has gone to great lengths to ensure that's not a problem. The vehicle has backup power systems that kick in if something goes wrong. There are systems built in that monitor the aircraft, and if anything goes wrong, it automatically executes an emergency landing. Plus, all the communications are encrypted to ensure no one can interfere. All this combined makes it one of the safest autonomous air taxis made for commercial use in the world. Now, this is where most people assume that while all that sounds cool, the tech is probably still just a prototype that's still being tested upon by scientists in a lab somewhere in China. But that's the twist. While other countries trying to develop flying taxis are still in the prototype phase, China's EHang has flown past that milestone a long time ago. The EH216S isn't locked up in some lab, it is out there in the cities, actually being useful. EHang tested the aircraft extensively in real-world conditions in various Chinese cities to prove that it could handle whatever conditions it would face during normal operations. The company ran 40,000 pilotless flights to build its credibility. Studies were conducted, flight data analyzed, and safety procedures tested. And the fruit of these efforts was rewarded when in 2023 the EH216S was awarded the world's first certificate for an autonomous passenger-carrying aircraft. Then once again in 2025, the EHang received the world's first air operator certificate for a pilotless electric aircraft. This was all unprecedented. No other country in the world had issued a company these kinds of certificates. But what did these pieces of paper entail? Well, this acted as recognition by the government, saying that yes, this airborne autonomous vehicle was safe enough to be used for transportation by the public. And this opened the way for EHang to start employing the EH216S in projects that could legally operate within cities for public use. It's not a prototype. It is a machine that the Chinese authorities are confident will perform perfectly. That's why EHang's aircraft have found a practical use in China already, while other countries still lag behind. EH-216S is being used by tourism agencies to provide aerial tours of important places and cities in various places in China. The panoramic view from the aircraft's cabin is becoming popular with tourists. But that isn't the only use for this technology. It is also being used by the government for public services like speeding up emergency response. These use cases are already proving highly useful. Not only are they helping further develop the technology, but they are also laying the groundwork for the widespread use of autonomous aircraft for public use in the near future. And all this is what sets China apart from the rest of the world. There are many companies around the globe trying to develop similar technology, but they are always left waiting for the bureaucratic trap to get cleared up first. They have to wait for approval from many government agencies and officials. More often than not, those approvals never actually come, leaving the companies in limbo waiting for approvals. China, on the other hand, has cut past all of that quite swiftly as soon as the potential of autonomous low-altitude flights was realized. And now, China has taken another huge step towards making the new mode of transportation a norm. They have written the low-altitude economy into the nation's national work report, recognizing the huge potential it entails. This is a huge deal for one very good reason. When China puts something in its national work report, it isn't some sort of honorable mention like in other countries. Rather, it is a promise and a new path forward. It means that China realizes that low-altitude travel is going to become a popular mode of transportation soon, and the country will now commit resources to make that possible. Policies will be created to facilitate the growth of this new economy, with massive projects being funded to accommodate the upcoming changes. The support from the state in the form of these policies and investments is huge for companies like EHang. Because for other countries that have developed prototypes, the biggest hurdle they face is the lack of infrastructure. Due to a lack of government support, these companies have been unable to fund and construct all the accompanying things they need to make the technology truly come to life. But China isn't making the same mistake. The nation is looking into creating essential infrastructure for airborne taxis, like landing and takeoff pads, clearing low-altitude airspace, and designing laws and regulations to ensure a manageable air traffic flow. For China, the future is already here, and they are preparing an ecosystem for it. And they have good reason to be investing so heavily in this industry. After all, China expects it to earn them a lot of money since they have set the national economic target for the low-altitude sector at 1.5 trillion yuan for 2025. China expects that to turn into 3.5 trillion yuan by 2035. That is equal to $500 billion US. With that much money on the line, no wonder China is so willing to make the industry prosper in its major cities as soon as possible. And it's not like the EH-216S is the only autonomous aircraft that EHang is producing. They are also developing the VT-35, which is a bigger beast in every regard. It has more flight time, more speed, and a larger payload capacity. This makes it ideal for longer-range travels. Unfortunately, both these models are still limited to use for tourism and emergency response systems. That is still years ahead of the rest of the world, but it isn't the final vision that EHang has in mind. They want to make the EH-216S and the VT-35 an economical and viable mode of transport within the next 3 years. The aim is to turn these flying cars into a readily used taxi for navigating around major cities. The only thing holding back this dream is the still developing infrastructure. Companies like EHang are waiting with anticipation for the day when air taxis are just as readily available as ordering an Uber. But there is one company that has taken a completely different approach to the problem: the land aircraft carrier. Airage is a Chinese company that is building something on another level. Their land aircraft carrier is exactly what it sounds like: an aircraft carrier that operates on land. So how does it work? Well, first let's look at the land aspect of the vehicle. On first glance, it looks simply like a van, only a bit more futuristic looking. It has 3 axles and a 6-wheel drive with a rear wheel steering, making it an all-terrain vehicle, which means it can drive through the roughest roads without much of a hassle. Plus, it runs on electricity. But that doesn't mean you have to worry about getting stuck in the wilderness after running out of charge. That's because it is an extended-range EV with an onboard generator extending its range to 620 miles on a charge. In terms of size, the van is quite huge. It is 18 feet long and 6.6 feet wide. Why make it so big? Well, that gets us to the aircraft part. Because when you open the back portion, you won't find any seats there. Rather, hidden within is an entire aircraft that can be deployed in a matter of minutes. And when it comes out, it becomes clear why the van has to be so large. The aircraft is a complete beast. Built like a drone, it is a completely electric 2-seater designed for vertical takeoff and landing. From within, the view is very panoramic with a 270-degree visible cockpit. Once airborne, the aircraft can fly at a speed of up to 56 miles per hour. The flight control itself is extremely simplistic. You use a joystick to move the vehicle left and right. The landing and takeoff are handled completely by the aircraft itself. The controls are so simple that the company claims anyone can learn them within a few minutes to an hour. So no matter how bad you are at flying the Airage, you can learn it. But with so many of the processes for the flight automated, you would expect the aircraft to come packed with safety features. And as you can guess, it certainly is. The flight control system has triple redundancy. That means that even if one system fails, there are 2 more operating the vehicle. All 3 systems would have to fail simultaneously to cause a crash, which is extremely unlikely to happen. On top of that, the aircraft is equipped with 2 completely independent battery packs. So even if one fails, the other can operate normally, giving the rider plenty of time to land. But how long can you fly it? Well, the van part of the system isn't there just to carry the aircraft section around. It also functions as a battery pack. The aircraft can be docked inside to be recharged 5 to 6 times to let you keep flying over and over again. Though that is the biggest advantage of the Airage, rather it combats the biggest issue that other companies like EHang face: the lack of infrastructure. The Airage doesn't need some dedicated landing and launching pads to function. Rather, it can be deployed anywhere. All the infrastructure it needs is contained within the accompanying van. This provides a type of flexibility that no other low-altitude flying company is offering. This isn't some concept either. The company has already conducted test flights to show off its technology in Dubai, and the public absolutely loves it. Before the deliveries even began in 2026, there were already thousands of orders placed to buy these land aircraft carriers, and Airage is ready to fulfill that demand. They have set up a factory in Guangzhou that will be able to produce 10,000 units annually. That shows just how serious China is about its low-altitude economy. They aren't just planning and testing, they are now focusing on producing. It is true that the barrier to entry is a bit high right now. After all, just one of these costs $245,000. But that high price point is quite similar to the earlier days of electric vehicles. They were a luxury first and then became a norm later on. Today, you will be hard-pressed to go a few miles without spotting an EV on the road. China expects the low-altitude flying vehicles to follow the same rules. While right now these are being used as a luxury item for the rich to enjoy the eagle-eye view out in nature parks, soon these will be everywhere in China. Even aside from public uses, the possibilities are endless. The land aircraft carrier could be used for search and rescue, for tourism, and even for military uses. And once the orders begin shipping out in late 2026, other companies may follow suit, building cheaper and more accessible versions that most people can own. Now, while these electric aircraft are quite enough for a 2-person flight, China is also looking into something on a much larger scale: Skydragon. Meet the V5000, also called the Skydragon. Built by Fengfei Aviation, this isn't an autonomous aircraft taxi, it's a flying bus. Weighing 5 tons, this beast is capable of carrying 10 people at the same time. And to achieve that feat, a lot of raw power is required. The V5000 is equipped with 20 lift motors that work together to provide enough lift for a vertical takeoff and flight. But it's not like all of these 20 motors are actually necessary. Rather, this is another example of China's redundancy-filled design. The V5000 can operate even if multiple of its motors fail, allowing for a safe landing. And just like other aircraft discussed today, this is not an experimental prototype incapable of flight. The company has already flown a test flight at the Kunshan Civil Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Test Flight Operation Base. The test showed how the SkyDragon can lift off vertically and then switch to a fixed wing configuration that allows it to fly much more efficiently. Then, when landing, it switched back to vertical mode to touch down safely. According to Feng Fei, this was the largest vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that had ever completed a test flight, marking it as another revolutionary step towards China's dream of a thriving low-altitude economy. But how is this technology going to be used? Feng Fei has proposed 2 major uses. One is an airborne bus that can be used as a public transport mode for tourism. The secondary use is even more fascinating. The V5000 has a freight model that is designed to lift loads instead of people. It is capable of flying with up to 1 ton of cargo attached to it. For a country that is heavily reliant on industry, this technology could be a game changer. Factories and companies could utilize these to move products and raw materials from one place to another. Major stores could make larger deliveries, and construction companies could use these as a better alternative to helicopters for the transportation of materials. The possibilities are endless. But the biggest use case remains transportation, especially when you look at the complete range of the V5000. A fully electric variant can traverse 155 miles on a single charge. A hybrid variant, on the other hand, can extend that range to nearly 1,000 miles. That's not an intercity level of transport. We are talking about commutes from one city to another. With the V5000, China is giving birth to a transportation network that no other country can hope to catch up to. Why low altitude is the future? Now you may be wondering, these are all quite impressive achievements. But what does it mean for the general public? What would a booming low-altitude economy do for the everyday people? Well, with this technology, China is combating one of the biggest issues of our time, and that is urban traffic infrastructure that is quite clearly falling apart. China is one of the most populous countries in the world, and with that population comes cars, lots of them. But the city design and infrastructure we have today are not really enough to handle that. Most of the roads in use today were initially designed for foot traffic or horse carriages. Over time, newer roads were built on top of the old ones, but the layout of the city remained the same. Now, as traffic has increased significantly, these dated infrastructures are causing congestion. There are only 2 solutions here. Either redesign the cities to have more efficiently placed roads or bypass road traffic altogether. The first solution is vital, but it is expensive, time-consuming, and near impossible to do because a lot of people will have to lose their homes to make way for the newer road layouts. So the only viable solution is the second one. Historically, China has provided alternatives to road travel by trains and subways like the rest of the world. But that infrastructure is also nearing its limit. So to remedy that, low-altitude air travel is the only clear path forward. Airspace above cities goes unused at least below the 1,000-meter mark. Commercial aircraft cannot fly that low due to rules and regulations. So that leaves all that airspace clear for flying vehicles to use. In the past, this hasn't been attempted mainly because the technology wasn't there yet. Flying cars developed by various countries around the globe were either too unreliable, unsafe, or most importantly, relied on humans to fly them. And the thing about humans is they make mistakes. While a collision on the road can be protected against through various means, a flying car going out of control could mean someone on the 10th story gets a surprise visit from a very confused driver. But with the advent of AI, that problem has now been solved. Manufacturers in China like EHang have utilized AIs to make flying the aircraft a non-issue. Humans never really enter the equation when it comes to flying the aircraft, as there is no need for extensive training, licensing, and risk management. And this opened up a whole new avenue for urban movement. In the air, there are no potholes, no traffic lights, and no stuck traffic. With AI in control of everything, the air taxis can move as efficiently as possible. This turns journeys that would have taken hours in a busy city into a journey of mere minutes, and the scope goes beyond public transportation and taxis. Low-altitude aircraft could be used for emergency response, medical evacuation, and surveillance for crime control. The technology shines even more in the mountainous regions of China. While regions in mountains with less access to urban hubs and emergency facilities have fallen behind economically, low-altitude aircraft could bridge that gap and level the playing field once again. China isn't looking at this technology as just a means of transportation like other countries. They are looking at it as a way to develop their country even further. While other nations may catch up in the future, China has secured a head start that will give it an edge by investing in the technology earlier and nurturing it when it most needs it. That does it for this video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.